بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome everyone. Jazakumullah khairan for attending. For those who are attending, and Jazakumullah khairan for those who are listening to the recording. This is Mahmoud. I'm just going to be introducing the class briefly, and then I'll pass it on to Sidi Ustadh Saifullah, inshallah, to teach the class. So, inshallah, this class is hosted by Al-Majd Institute. It was launched initially in 2007 by Sheikh Mahmoud and a few of his siblings to basically teach the Quran memorization to kids in their area. By 2019, alhamdulillah, they expanded their operations. They rented out a larger space and they started teaching the Islamic sciences to students of the Sharia, mostly in the Azhar University in Egypt. And by 2020, Sheikh Mahmoud started teaching classes to Fiqh classes or Islamic law classes to non-specialists in Sharia studies or in Islamic studies. And that's where we stand right now. So, in summary, the institute offers 3 different types of services: Quranic memorization with tajweed, 2 specialized classes for students of knowledge, and 3 generic classes for general Muslims. And this class, inshallah, falls into this 3rd category, where we're trying to help Muslims learn the basics and the obligatory knowledge of the religion. So inshallah, we pray that this class will help towards this direction, inshallah. Inshallah, there will be other classes, especially with the coming of Ramadan. There will, inshallah, be a maqra'ah, which is basically an opportunity to be able to recite the Quran to someone who's qualified in Quranic recitation, to rectify the recitation accordingly. So inshallah, we're still arranging that, and we'll post details soon, inshallah. As to this class, it's going to be 3 classes. This is the first of them. It's going to be every Sunday from 9 p.m. Cairo time until 10 p.m. Cairo time. I know today might have been a little bit off because time just changed today in North America. So inshallah, next time it's going to be according to Cairo time, again 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Bismillah. Recordings are going to be sent, inshallah, after the class. And the class is going to be starting very soon. Sidi Abu Joseph. Just wrapping up this. Just a little bit about Ustadh Saifullah, our teacher in this course. Ustadh Saifullah has been learning the Islamic sciences since 2013, so that's almost 10 years now. And he studied under Sheikh Mishri multiple texts in the Maliki Fiqh curriculum. And he studied also under Sheikh Mahmoud Shabib Al-Sharh Al-Saghir in full. That's one of the main relied upon books in the madhab, one of the larger ones. He studied texts in usul such as Taqrib al-Usul and Tanqih al-Fusul by Imam al-Qarafi, which I'm not sure if it's still in progress or if he already finished it. He's also studied under Sheikh Zuhair Qazan, books like Butlayhiyya and Mukhtasar Khalil is still in progress, and still in progress also with Sheikh Mishri. And he also studied other things in language and in tafsir and in aqidah and logic, qawaid fiqhiyya and hadith. Alhamdulillah, Bismillah is not short of knowledge at all when it comes to fiqh, and I personally benefit from him a lot, alhamdulillah. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Sidi Saifullah to inshallah begin the class. Jazakumullahu khairan.
كرمك الله سيدنا كرمك الله. just on the video because it's better when you follow a lesson to have the video. I know, of course, as Sheikh Rami, some of you might know him from California, said, and I think he heard that from his teacher, or maybe this quote comes from him directly. Studying online, remote studying is like tayammum, you know, when you can't have access to the water directly, tayammum becomes wajib. And of course, the experience is not the same. We can't benefit from each other the same way we might if we were sitting in the same room. Though it might make things easier for the sisters. That's one good point. But that's why I'm turning on the camera, because focusing when you are behind your computer in your room, I mean, it's not as easy. So just about what you just said, Sidi Mahmoud Salim, تنقيح الفصول, نعم, we're still studying it with Sheikh Mahmoud. نعم. And Sheikh Mishri, for those who probably might not know him, because if you know Sheikh Mishri, you might think about the Sheikh of Ma'ta Moulana in Mauritania. So the name of the Sheikh we are referring to is Al-Hadi al-Mishri, who was named after the Sheikh by his mother, Hafidhah Allah. And he's one of the shuyukh in the Nabaghiya Mahdara in Mauritania. So about our class, as Sidi Mahmoud just said, it shall be, inshallah, 3 lessons. Okay, تفضل, yeah. It shall be 3 lessons, but it might be 2. It will depend on the number of questions you have to ask, depending on like if you want more details or not. Because up to now, usually when I cover this chapter, whether on the Risala or on Aqrab al-Masalik, I tend to do it in 2 lessons, as far as I remember. But anyways, we will see. We will see. If 2 lessons only are needed, and then we take a 3rd lesson for just some question and answers, so be it. If we need 3 lessons, tamam, no problem for me. I'm here for you. Even if we need a 4th lesson, I have nothing against that. So I just quickly made a PowerPoint, nothing too fancy, just as a support for one or few things. One thing also, I want you to be clear cut. If the sound is not good, if I said something that is not clear, just tell it right away. I think you can at all time activate your mic, so do not refrain from that, right? Do not refrain in case of anything needed. So my not so professional PowerPoint, I don't have a lot of skills in this ones, but talking about the fiqh of fasting. So obviously Ramadan is coming, so we have in mind Ramadan, but fiqh of fasting is not always about Ramadan. So we'll see some of those things make sense only if we consider the whole year. Now, when it comes to the support I'm using, it's not a book yet, or it's a soon-to-be book written by Sheikh Mahmoud Shabib. So one of my shuyukh, as Sidi Mahmoud Salim just explained to you. And he's basically doing an abridged version of the Sharh al-Saghir. I will not use it, I will not read it to you. I will just use it as a support. I'm not sure who is an Arabic speaking person among you. Also, it will just make things longer. And since you will not have access to the text in itself, not as long as it's not finished yet. So if it's not finished, not published, you won't have the text itself. So let's just focus on the Masail. And I'm using this text so that you know what is the origin of all of that, inshallah. So The first thing that is interesting to us is who must fast Ramadan when we talk about Ramadan. And since Ramadan is almost there, we'll start with that. So must fast. So fasting is an obligation upon the Mukallaf. The Mukallaf, anyone who studied just a little bit of Fiqh knows what it is, but it's someone who is morally or legally responsible. What we mean is that in front of Allah, he is responsible for what he's doing. As in, if he does a sin, he might be punished for that. If he doesn't do something that is an obligation, same thing. Whatever is obligatory, he has to do, and whatever is impermissible, he must refrain from doing it. And it is someone who reached puberty and has sanity of mind, and also has whom the message of Islam has reached. These are the three conditions of being a mukallaf. All these details like puberty, how do we know when someone has reached puberty? It's usually not covered during lessons on fasting. If you don't know them, we can cover them later on. Just put that as a question, inshallah. Okay. Since it's not like part of this chapter, usually I did not include them, but it's possible to add them also. So of course I said yajibu, it's an obligation to fast for such a person. That means it's a condition of obligation. Okay, puberty, as I mentioned. And we'll see that intellect is actually condition, obligation and validity. But let's go on like little by little. So we said the person that is a mukallaf must fast if he's qadir, so if he's able to fast. By this, we accept someone who would be, for example, sick, okay, with conditions that we will cover later on. We say also that he has to be hadir, meaning resident or not a traveler. So here we have this classical breakdown of the conditions. Almost in all chapters, you will have conditions of obligation, validity, and what we call obligation and validity together. Now about validity, here it's just being Muslim. Why do we put there Islam as a condition of validity and not like obligation and validity? Because if a kafir, a disbeliever, was to fast, it would not be valid, obviously, because Islam is a condition, but it's still an obligation for him to fast. So during Ramadan for us, Malikis, and I think it's the same also for Shafi'is and Hanbalis, just Hanafis have another take on this question. For us three madhahib schools, everybody on the surface of earth whom the message of Islam has reached to must fast. Okay, the question of what are the conditions for this reaching, for the message have been reached or not, you know, and what it constitutes is not the topic of this lesson, unfortunately, but practically speaking, you don't need to know these details. I would like to keep it like very like pragmatic when it comes to this lesson. So that's the first thing, Islam, and also being during a time allowing fasting. So basically during the two Eid, it's not valid. Okay, it's of course not an obligation, but it's not valid to fast at that moment. And the last kind of conditions is condition of both obligation and validity. And we mentioned earlier intellect, or like having a sound mind, not being mad. And the other one is not having, for a lady, her period, nor being during this time of postnatal bleeding. So here you can see that someone who is mad, it's not an obligation for him to fast. And even if he was to fast, it will not be valid. There are a few details about when we are talking, when a person becomes crazy, mad. But at the moment of Fajr, because it's the most important, as we'll see later, at the moment of Fajr, someone who has lost his sanity, fasting is not an obligation upon him, and it will not even be valid if he was to fast. Same for ladies in period or postnatal bleeding. It's neither an obligation nor validity. So here you can see the difference between condition of obligation, like puberty. Someone who has not reached puberty can fast. It would be valid for him. Okay, as in it's a valid, ibadah. But it's not an obligation. Same for the person who is sick. Fasting, like if you have, I don't know, let's stick to our time. If you have COVID, it's permissible for you to fast unless you risk dying because of fasting. But it's still permissible, even if you are exempted from doing so. You can fast, but it's not an obligation upon you. Same for the one traveling. He can fast. So is this all clear? The way we break down these conditions. We can access the chat. It has disappeared. Discussion, yeah. Okay. Okay, if it's clear for everyone, let's go on. Tamam. Then, of course, we will talk about the integrals, or like as we call it, arkan, the pillars, or the obligations, meaning those things that are actually fasting. When we talk about integrals, we say, okay, this thing, it is composed of this and that. Here, two things: intention and abstaining from basically sex and eating and drinking. Okay. One interesting thing, for some ulama, all of that, including the integrals, are just conditions. So some ulama, they put as conditions of validity the intention and what we call al-imsak. So not having sexual intercourse and not drinking and eating. And I will not go further why, but it's based on the difference in the definition of fasting. Some ulama have a definition, some others have another definition. But you can see that practically, it doesn't change anything. Whether you say the intention and imsak are integrals or are conditions of validity, if you don't have the intention, and if you drink or have sex or eat during the day of Ramadan or of any fast, it will be invalid anyways. So practically speaking, it will be the same. So let's just talk a little bit about the intention first. And then the next topic, just for you to be prepared, we'll be talking about how do we know that Ramadan is there. So the first thing, the intention, as I've written, it has to be put between Maghrib and Fajr. Okay, and even at the moment of Fajr, of course, the moment of Fajr, we could say it is supposed to be like a split second, right? Before it's not Fajr and after it's Fajr. But in reality, when you look at the sky and you look at the horizon and you wait for Fajr, there's always this moment where you say, oh, it almost, yeah, it might be already there, or oh, it's there. And that might be like 1 or 2 minutes. That's why we talk about Also, one of the masail, one of the questions that are talked about in this chapter is having doubt whether Fajr entered or not. Okay, so if you put your intention right at the moment of Fajr, it's okay. And this is for anything, not only for Ramadan. So that's important, because in some schools, if you wake up and you did not eat nor drink and it's before Dhuhr, then you can have the intention that you will fast this day, for example, and it's valid for you, which is very convenient in let's say the northern hemisphere, when you have Maghrib at 4 in winter. That makes a very, very short day. But in our school, you need to have it by night, and night in Islam is between Maghrib and Fajr. When it comes to the intention itself, some have said that it is the fact that you have in your heart that you would get closer to Allah by accomplishing, or let's say doing, what He made obligatory. So Allah made obligatory during Ramadan to fast, basically, by like dedicating this day to refraining from drinking, eating, and having sexual intercourse. But as you see, that's a very long intention. And it is not necessary to have this sort of long intention. You can, of course, always add to your intention. Okay, you can even read a hadith or anything from the ulama where they talk about the benefits of fasting, and you can add all these benefits to your intention. That's great. But if you want to stick to what is necessary, it is enough to have in mind by any way that, okay, tomorrow you're going to fast Ramadan. Khalas, as we say. That's enough. You don't need more than that. This is perfectly valid. So now we come to what I wrote here. One niyyah is enough if no interruption. What do I mean by that? In case of Ramadan, in case of the kafara, so the expiation of what we call al-dhihar, but it's like, if you know what it is, then good for you. If not, just don't think about it, because it's another chapter. It's one of the chapters in the fiqh of marriage. So don't think about it. Or the kafara of killing someone unwillingly, same thing. Or the kafara of Ramadan. So all of these things have to be done in a row, like 60 days without interruption. Like Ramadan, it's 30 days, and like normally it's without any interruption, except for ladies, obviously. So we'll come to the question of interruption. So when you have an interruption, whether, for example, you have your period, for ladies, or you are traveling, and here traveling, even if you still fast, because when you travel, you are like someone who stopped fasting. And we will see small details when it comes to niyyah. Or when you are sick, for example, if you don't have these three things, cutting your Ramadan, one intention is enough. If you have one of these three things, or three of them, then you need to renew your intention for the end of Ramadan, or every night, if you still fast and you are traveling or you are sick, but still you are fasting, right? So Ramadan is one intention, but if it is cutted, if there is an interruption, the intention must be renewed. Now comes the case where this interruption, you don't interrupt because you don't want to. You don't want to have to do qada, to make up days of fasting. So, okay, you're sick, you feel bad, but you still fast. That's your right, okay? You have the right to do so. Or you are traveling and you still fast, and it is good for you to do so. because in such a case, as we will repeat later, it is disliked to fast in our school. Okay, so that's a dispensation that is disliked in our school. If you, let's say you travel 3 days, or you are 6, 7 days, or any number, you have to have the intention to fast the next day every single night. And at the end of this time of dispensation, you have the intention to continue your Ramadan. Okay, is that clear? So you could say that the default ruling is that one intention is enough for Ramadan, but when you cut, or you are in a situation where you could stop fasting, at that moment, you need to renew your intention. Now, to make it clear, because I said it's enough to have the intention that, okay, tomorrow I will fast Ramadan, but actually it's even easier than that. If you wake up, let's say for suhoor, so before Fajr, and you eat knowing that after Fajr you will fast, it is enough as an intention. You don't need to make a sentence in your head that tomorrow I will be fasting Ramadan, or I will be fasting any day. Same thing after Maghrib, you have the info that tomorrow is Ramadan, and you say, oh, mashallah, alhamdulillah, tabarakallah, tomorrow is Ramadan, and you know that it's Ramadan, you will be fasting. This is the intention already. Alhamdulillah, you know, that's like a weapon against the waswas. That's a big weapon against him. That intention is such an easy element. Okay, one last thing. We said one intention is enough, but it's still recommended to have it every single night of Ramadan. Okay, again, it's enough to think about Maghrib, but oh, tomorrow I will be fasting, or tomorrow is another day of Ramadan where I will be fasting, or it's enough that you now eating your breakfast, or like the name is not proper in English, breakfast, but your suhoor, and you know that like after 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I will have to stop all of that because I'm fasting Ramadan. That would count as an intention, as the renewal of the intention that is recommended. And so the second integral, we don't need to talk too much about it right now, because the ulama, they have this habit to discuss it a bit more in details, to be sure to what is counted as breaking one's fast or not later on. But as I mentioned earlier, it's abstaining from sexual intercourse, or like ejaculation, because one is not necessarily followed by the other, or rather ejaculation does not necessitate having sexual intercourse. There are some details in fiqh about this. So that's one thing. And second thing is like abstaining from having food reaching one's throat or stomach. By food, I mean food or liquid, with some details that we'll cover maybe today, maybe next week. So again, see, if anything is not so clear, or if I'm too fast, or if I'm too slow, or anything, just don't be shy and put it in the chat box. So then comes the question of beginning and of Ramadan. So it's two things. To make it simple, we can keep in mind two things. The first is the completion of 30 days of Sha'ban or Ramadan for the end of Ramadan. This is, it can be complicated nowadays in that some countries, or most of the, let's say, Islamic countries, except for Ramadan and Sha'ban and sometimes Dhul Hijjah, like for example, Saudi Arabia, for Dhul Hijjah, they also rely upon witnesses' testimony. But for the other months, they use a calculation. And we don't see calculation as a valid way to establish a month. So even if by the past, it was clear, like completion of 30 days was clear cut because people used to look for the hilal, the new crescent. Nowadays, it might be a bit tricky, but anyways, one of the two ways is completion of 30 days, because that's the maximum number of days for any lunar month in our fiqh. And the other one is if the moon is sighted. So obviously 30 days, it's when you have clouds, or the month is just actually 30 days. So now the moon being sighted. So we have different cases. Let's first talk about the ways discussed in our books. So they say you need either 2 upright witnesses or a large group. 2 upright witnesses, it's challenging to find 2 upright witnesses nowadays. Actually, back in the day, there were people that were dedicated to the task of knowing if people are upright or not. Or you would have to have witnesses witnessing that this person is upright. I mean, obviously nowadays, this is rarely used by any court, like, or I don't know how they call that, committees, like moon sighting committees and all of that. I know that in Mauritania, they still do that, because I think last year or 2 years ago, they were mentioning that, okay, ex-witnesses have said they've seen the moon. It was quite a large number. And then they said that they were still in the process of verifying, doing tazkiyah, basically, verifying the uprightness of these witnesses. So there's still somehow, somewhat this system in Mauritania, but I don't know how they do it, if it's still as precise as it used to be. So usually the 2 upright witnesses, not so certain. So nowadays, we should more rely upon a large group. Large group, meaning people, like, they could not make it up, basically. So one detail is, as I just mentioned, astronomical calculations. It's completely ignored. So we can't rely upon it to say it is possible or it is impossible to see the moon. We don't, you know, these maps, they always do. And that creates so much talks and people saying that it's not possible that these people have seen the moon because the map. Yeah? In the Maliki school, we just close our eyes. We don't see them. We don't care. We just follow the fiqh shara'i way to do. And if we have witnesses, especially a large group, then we just follow, and it's okay. Even if they were all wrong, we did what was asked from us, which is the most important. But what is to be kept in mind is whatever the reality of the thing, maybe all these people, they had some hallucination, they think they saw the moon, but it was something else. It's not our problem. If we have 2 upright witnesses or a large group, then khalas, we have to fast. Okay. Another detail is starting Ramadan following another school's hukum is permitted. What I mean here is that some schools, they say 1 upright witness is enough. Or some schools, they have different rules when establishing if someone is upright or not. For example, us as Malikis, we say, oh, that person is not upright because we have this and that conditions. But maybe Shafi'is, they have different conditions. So maybe for them, person A would be upright, person B would be not upright, and it would be the opposite for us. So that's possible. But if, for example, the Shafi'is, they say Ramadan, and when you say Shafi'is, we have in mind someone with power, so a judge, or like nowadays official committees or bodies that are appointed by governments. So we talk about like something official. Like every year we have this communication from the official committee of the Lajna al-Ulama, or this sort of let's say bodies of ulama who gather to say if it started or not. So if they use only one witness, or if they use astronomical calculation, we are not obligated to follow them to start Ramadan, but we can still do it. And obviously, if you live in the West, generally speaking, already people, like, some will start one day, some will start the other day. Some people follow Morocco, some people will follow Turkey, some people will follow Saudi. So that's already somehow a mess. So usually to have to start earlier or the same day or later will not change a lot. But now if you live, for example, in Morocco and everybody starts Ramadan, well, even if the way they used to start Ramadan is not correct, or like in Morocco, for example, they only rely upon their own vision, only what have been cited in Morocco. And if the whole world has cited the moon, but not them, they will not start fasting. For us, in this scenario, it would be a problem because we would still have to fast. But if it's the opposite, if they say they saw the moon, but no one else saw the moon, well, here you have to, because we know they follow the Maliki school in this point. But if you are in another country, in, I don't know, say Egypt or Saudi Arabia, especially Saudi Arabia, because they always pretend that there's one Bedouin that came and said he saw the moon. But in the end, like almost everybody knows that they follow calculation. Or if you are in Turkey, we know officially they follow calculation for every single month, and they already know in 10 years when will be the first day of Ramadan. So if you're there, it might be complicated for you to say, no, I will not start fasting today because no one saw the moon, and the whole country is actually fasting because we follow calculations. In such a circumstance, since it's the beginning of Ramadan, you would just go with them. Just fast with them. It's okay because it's the beginning. Now, when it comes to the end of Ramadan, the ulama in our books say that, okay, to stop and to get out of, especially the sacred months of Ramadan, you need to be way on the safe side. So you could not follow these calculations. You need to be pretty sure of what you are doing. And I mean, if you are in this very specific case where you're in an Islamic country and they follow invalid ways to establish the month, I would advise you to reach out to a mufti so you can answer. Because, for example, Imam al-Dardir says, okay, to avoid fitna, just follow the others. And if you feel that it was not correct, you can just do qada, so make up one day, if you fear that there might be one day missing to your Ramadan. So long story short, you can start Ramadan even if the way to establish it is not correct. And there is no reason to create any issue on the social media and this sort of things, just start Ramadan, it's fine. You're just starting an adoration. It's all good, alhamdulillah. To end it, it's a bit more problematic in our school. Just know that. And if you are in a situation that would involve like either harm or people would really look bad at you. It would make you a bad reputation, not doing the Eid with everybody, or maybe it would be almost impossible, you know, if you are with family in an Islamic country, then maybe you will not even be able. So in such a scenario, you will make up one day later and avoid fitna. But still, it would be better to reach out to a mufti to have a more precise answer, or more than precise, to have an answer that is directly linked to your personal case, because everybody is in different scenario, and whatever is applicable to me might not be to you and you and you. One last thing, in our school, if citing has been established in a valid way, in a way, as I mentioned, so 2 upright witnesses or a large group that saw the moon, and now it is spread by reliable sources, not just this anonymous person on whatever Facebook, Twitter, Instagram saying that the moon has been sighted, but let's say official canals, or such a large group of people conveying the information that, you know, they can't have made this up. Still the same idea to have some sort of a certainty. Even if this is the case, depending on where you are, you might not have to follow it. So we have this semi-global sighting in our school, where we take the sightings when they are in a range of around 5,000 kilometers. They used to say between Andalus and Khurasan, or between Andalus and Hijaz. And what is beyond that, beyond the distance, is too far away. It's too far away. We can't rely upon such a sighting. So to just sum up, so we want a sighting within a range of around 5,000-ish kilometers that has been witnessed by 2 upright persons or a large group, and conveyed to you by reliable sources. So people in America, like in California, for example, or even the East Coast, anything like any moon that has been sighted in any other part of the world, except maybe Central America for some of you, you will not have to follow it, basically. And that's the opinion that is found in most of the text of our school. And just some later ulama, like Imam al-Dardir and those who followed him, said that it's global, like 100%. If it's cited in Hawaii and you are at the other side of the world, you still have to fast. But it's a way later opinion, and it seems that the correct one is this semi-global sighting. Okay. Any questions regarding these ones? I'm sorry, it's a few details, but I had to mention them because they have a practical application. They have, it's not just details for details, but you can face the issue. And nowadays with social media, I mean, you will have a lot of people talking. So please tell me if it's, in case it's not clear, inshallah. So connected to this whole question of beginning and end of Ramadan, we have this day. Alhamdulillah. Okay. We have this day we call Yom al-Shak, which is the day of doubt. It's when by the 29th of Sha'ban or Ramadan, the sky, the weather is really cloudy. So you can't see the moon. Maybe it's there, but you can't see it. Okay. And so the next day, you don't know, maybe it's Ramadan, maybe not. Just like the information did not reach you. And nowadays, I would say like Hanafis who rely upon global sighting, or or we could say also the Malikis that follow the opinion of Imam al-Dardir, but say that wherever you are in the world, when it applies to you, I mean, it will be Ramadan for you. If you live, say, in like me, you know, in the Gulf, by the time it's Maghrib in California or Peru, Chile, and these countries, it's already day here. It's already like maybe I don't know exactly what the time difference is, but especially in summer. No, it's April. It should be maybe a bit better, but when it was in summer, even when I was still living in France, I remember that it was almost like half an hour or an hour before Fajr that we had news from America regarding the sighting. But in all of these scenarios, you know, you started your day, you don't know if this day you just started, maybe it's already Ramadan, maybe not. So some people, they might think, okay, I will have the intention to fast it just in case it's Ramadan. So I will be fasting Ramadan. This is disliked first. And if it's Ramadan, it will not be valid. Anyways, you will have to do qada of this day. Anyways. But now, if you want to fast it just as a day of fast, okay, you say, okay, tomorrow is maybe the 13th of Sha'ban. So I will fast the 13th of Sha'ban. That's another day of fast nafil for me. It's good. Yeah, you can do it. There is no problem. It's completely permissible. For us, we really understand this question of Yom Shak and not fasting during Yom Shak. Oh yeah, the UK. Who is? Yeah, for sure. Like Hanafis in the UK, they have the country basically. How come Hanafis follow Saudi? But that's the first question. And your area follow Morocco. I mean, in your case, that's a good question, but you will have to see. Maybe Morocco, I don't know what distance it is, but it's still in the range. But let's say Morocco is the only country not fasting, and Algeria say that they saw the moon, for example, and it's a lot of people, and Tunisia the same. I don't know exactly how many kilometers. Yeah, it should still be okay. Then you fast even if Morocco has not sighted the moon, okay? And if it's only Saudi who said that they saw the moon, and the other countries just, some of the other countries just say that it's Ramadan because of Saudi, because it happens, you know, this is something very well known. Some people, they just blindly follow Saudi. Maybe it will change because of the way like Saudi is like getting more involved into mondialism and you know, global village of the world and all of that. So maybe they will start distancing themselves from Saudi. But I mean, Saudi is so far from the UK, you don't have to follow that. If you want to avoid fitna, you still can. Okay. Again, the only issue would be for the end of Ramadan, and especially if they say that tomorrow is an Eid, and it's based on thin air, or just like so-called this famous or infamous Saudi Bedouin that lives in it's always in the same place in Saudi. It's quite interesting. I mean, you don't have to follow the rest of UK first, because I'm pretty sure you will find everything in the UK. Turkish people, they will follow Turkey. Hanafis, I know some, they will just follow South Africa or Morocco. I think it's more like the Deoband Jama'a. Baralvis, I don't think they will follow Saudi about anything. So I think UK, it's like France, you know, it's already a mess. So whatever you do will have no impact. And unless you are in a situation where you fasting or not fasting will have an impact on your life, or people talking bad about you, these sort of things, then just like do your thing. That's what I've been doing for years in France, you know, just like with brothers and other tulab al-ilm, looking, okay, has the moon being real sighted here and there? Okay, we have an official statement from this judge or official committee, and they say that they received witnesses. Say, okay, this is enough, we follow that. Otherwise, since you are, I mean, depending where you are in the UK, if you are in the north, maybe there's not even, maybe you are so far that, except maybe the closest country being Morocco and Algeria, if there's nothing from them, then you just complete 30 days. You know, if you have no information, then the default is to follow 30 days, completion of 30 days. You see the first line. But again, if you are in a special situation with your family or with close like community that might, you know, it might have an impact on you, then the best thing first is to ask a mufti, or like I don't know, from, I mean, you can ask us, like in Al-Majd Institute, we have of course like Sheikh Mahmoud Shabib or any other of our mashaykh that can answer your question, give you fatwa. Or you could reach out to Sheikh Rami if you have his contact, or anyone. But in the end, if you are in any situation, how reaching out to people in this institute, I guess I will ask Sidi Mahmoud Salim, the one who set up the session and all of that. I will ask how we can do it. And yeah, that's important. That's important, that we can have a follow-up together. Maybe creating, asking to create some channel on Telegram or WhatsApp or something easy, or that he sets up an email that we can all access. So yeah, that's great. Thank you for asking. That's great. Okay, so let's just try to go on. So we said it's makruh to fast this day. Okay. Now we talked about the intention. I can stop sharing my screen because I didn't have the time to prepare more. No. Okay, I think my screen is not shared anymore. Is it? No, I'm still. Okay, stop. Yeah. Sorry. So now let's talk just a bit about this second integral, because our ulama gave some details. So they say, of course, it's refraining from sexual intercourse, but they gave some details. They said that it is intercourse with any one or anything, literally anything that can have intercourse, that can physically have intercourse. So obviously they would exclude like children and this sort of thing. So even like if some dirty pedophile would do that, sorry for the topic, you know, or it will not count in this scenario unless he reaches orgasm. Sorry for, but you know, in fiqh if you're not used to, in fiqh we speak about everything, because everything is possible, and sadly we know that you have sick persons everywhere. So our fuqaha said also that someone who would have intercourse with a dead body, then that would break his fast, even if he did not reach orgasm. And same with animals. So here we talk just about the actual penetration, because as it was written in this PowerPoint I just showed you, ejaculation anyways will break your fast. So that's the second thing, right? To have what we call ikhraj, to have semen, or like ejaculation. Let's just use this word, it's easier. To have ejaculation, or to have this madhi, which is this pre-seminal fluid that comes out because you had thoughts. Next session, I will bring you, I will make basically a graph with the different scenarios when it comes to ejaculation and to having madhi, which is this pre-ejaculatory fluid, or vomiting also. So vomiting, if you make yourself vomit, that breaks your fast. Unlike if you're sick and it comes that you vomit, right? It doesn't break the fast as long as there's not something coming back to your throat. So that would be the difference. Here we see the difference between doing it intentionally and just being like the victim of it. So another thing they mean by when we say eating, for example, or drinking. So what it is, when you eat, or when you have something reaching your throat, it can be either solid or liquid. And if it's solid, it's either something that does not either melt or does not disintegrate itself, so to speak. Like, I don't know, biscuits, if you have biscuits reaching there, for sure there are some small parts of the biscuit that will fall, right? And like if it's a small stone that reaches your throat, nothing will come down. So here we have a difference. When you have something solid that does not either melt or does not make like some dust or some crisps or this sort of things, if it reaches your throat, your fast is still okay. You just get it out and it's fine. It has to reach your stomach to be actually breaking your fast. And when we talk about liquids or these solids that are like biscuits and this sort of thing, so where you have small parts of them that would stick in the throat and be at some point brought down to your stomach, the mere fact that it reaches the throat breaks the fast. So that's sort of an important difference. That's why we say when you do your madmada in wudu, rinsing your mouth, you should keep it, you should not be excessive in that. Try to keep the water like more into the front part of your mouth, because if it reaches your throat, immediately your fast is invalid. Unlike you, I don't know, putting something very solid like this bit, screwdriver bit, for example, someone, I don't know, putting it here and playing with it for some reason, people have habits like that. And then unfortunately, he swallows it and it sticks here and he finds a way to get it out. So that would have no impact on his fast. Okay, also, if something reaches your throat and it was not through your mouth, so you know that your eye or your eyes both have a very small hole, and it reaches your throat also. The same thing with your nose, and all the cavities inside, it is connected to your throat. Same thing with the ears, in case you have, I don't know what you call this, this membrane at the end of the ear, if it's pierced, and you have liquid entering, it can reach your throat actually. So same thing, if anything reaches your throat during daytime, it will break your fast. One important detail is that the kafara, as we'll see it later, is only for you willingly putting something in your mouth and it reaching your throat or your stomach, as we just said. So even if, okay, it's not permissible, but even if you were to put something in your nose, and you know that by doing that it will reach your throat, you will not have to do the kafara. You will just have to make up for this day. When we talk about that, we talk also about bakhur, which is incense. And you see, it makes a lot of smoke, right? And so the Fuqaha said, okay, someone who goes close enough, but he will feel the taste in the back of his throat. This breaks the fast, but because these smokes have an effect, you know, they somehow, or that's how they were experiencing it. They have an effect on your mind, like smoking, basically. And so because of that, they are like food, I say. But this, if it's just incense, even if it's the ones like the bakhur we use in they use or we use in Arabic countries, which is the one you know, this pieces of wood and you put charcoal on it and you burn it, so it makes a lot of smoke, you know. So even this one, there will never be kafara for it. Unlike cigarettes, smoking cigarettes breaks your fast, and you owe the kafara, because it's like even the word used, you know, sharb al-dukhan, it's really seen as drinking. Now there's another thing which is like smoke. It's steam from cooking pots. When you go there intentionally and you not only you take the air with your nose, obviously not, but even like from the mouth, you know, and then you will feel this this taste in the back of your throat. Also, this invalidates your fast. But here, pay attention. It has, you need to feel the taste in your throat. That's one thing. And second thing, you had to be actively inhaling it. Okay, so it's not like you're passing by and you're smelling this this nice smell, and or even you are in the kitchen and you have no choice. You know, there's a lot of steam or a lot of bakhur, a lot of incense, and you know, as we say, gharabatan, you have no choice. You are compelled to have this throat reaching your this smoke reaching your throat. In this scenario, you don't owe anything. Your fast is valid. Alhamdulillah. It's just if you intentionally go to it, which makes a big difference, right? Then likewise, I just talked about like vomiting. Sorry again for this like topic, but we have to talk about everything. So if it happens to you, Ajalakumullah, and may Allah preserve us from any sickness that would make us vomit. Then either you can, okay, you have vomiting, like really having vomit coming out, or from time to time it just comes up, you know, or even it's not vomit, you know, it just you just had a big suhoor, and you know, food wants to just come out because it's too much, you know, your stomach is too full, and maybe you drank also a lot of water and I don't know, soft beverages and these sort of things, you know, so your stomach, it's too much for it, and so it reaches around your throat. So there are two scenarios. Either when it reaches your throat, you can get it out. So here you must find a way, you know, by using the muscle, and you get it out. And if you don't do so and you let it come back, when you could have let it out, or like not let it out, but you could have ejected it, you know, at that moment, your fast is broken, because food reached a point where it was considered as outside, you could get rid of it, but you let it come back. At that moment, the fast is broken. Now, when it comes to vomiting, the real vomiting, if it's intentional, it breaks your fast. And if you swallow something back and it was intentional, you owe the kafara. If it was like, if you're just sick and you vomit, and something comes back unintentionally, in the first case, when you vomited intentionally, if it comes back, we don't look at if it's like, if you want it to come back or not, or if you can avoid it or not. You played, basically, you played, so to speak, with your fasting by forcing yourself to vomit. At that moment, you are not excused for whatever happens later on. But when you are sick and vomit comes out by itself, you would like not to vomit, but you have no choice, then there will never be kafara unless you swallow intentionally, which I think most of us don't do. And your fast will be invalid yet if something comes back, if something goes back down your throat to your stomach, but there will be no kafara. Is this clear? I think, inshallah, for next week, I want to also to do some sort of a graph, mind mapping for this one, because you can break it down like vomiting intentionally, unintentionally, and then whether something comes back or something doesn't come back, and in case it was unintentional vomiting, it's either you get rid of it all, or some comes down your throat unwillingly, or some comes down your throat and you did it. And depending on each of these cases, the hukum differs, as I just mentioned. So inshallah, we try to make some nice tree for next week. Is a full mouth considered to be vomiting? Like you have something coming from your stomach to your mouth. Is it what you mean? Yeah, I mean, this you have to get rid of it. You have to spit it out. You must. It's an obligation. So it has the same hukum as vomiting, even if we don't use the term, maybe we don't use the term vomiting, or it could be, as I said, you have this happening because you just ate too much. You were too hard on the biryani for suhoor, and or on the couscous, depending on where you come from, and it just come out. Okay, two other things with regard to this integral, meaning having something reaching your throat or your stomach. We talked about madmada in wudu. So yes, it breaks your fast. So pay attention, but still it would be disliked not to do madmada. So do it. Maybe do it once if you're really afraid to have water reaching the back of your throat. That you put water like this in the front part of your mouth. You move it a little bit inside. You spit it out. Maybe spit twice or thrice more to be sure, but not to be sure, but to okay, probably all of the water or the same quantity I just put in my mouth is outside. But now, of course, there will be droplets, but will still be in your mouth. This is excused. This is excused, explicitly mentioned in our text. So you do madmada, you spit maybe twice, thrice to be sure, quote unquote, not 100% certainty. And don't let the waswas come to your mind about these droplets, inshallah. And siwak, pay attention. Don't use siwak with a taste, because it will modify the taste of your saliva, and this breaks the fast. And this actually is considered as intentionally breaking the fast. and you owe the kafara for this. So use only dry siwak, the one with no taste at all. And so basically those ones that are usually sold under plastic, I mean, it's written on the, anyways, it's written on the package, but the ones that are sold like really dry ones that you have like this just try not to have any of the small pieces reaching out to your throat. And like the siwak that has a taste, toothpaste. Never brush your teeth with toothpaste because the taste stays really, really a long time. So avoid that. And even after the breakfast, what I would recommend you is to brush your teeth, but just with your obviously like toothbrush, but just with water, because most of my shuyukh said that toothbrush with this toothpaste is like what we call siwak al-jawza. And siwak al-jawza is this siwak that used in the past and probably still nowadays that has a taste, strong taste, that modifies the taste of saliva. And they said that if you do that even at night and you still have the taste during the day and you swallow, then your fast is invalid. You don't owe kafara, but your fast is invalid. So like considering this element, I would refrain from using toothpaste at all before fasting. Use it at night before going to bed, but not in the morning with the toothpaste. Allahu A'lam. It's already 1 hour. So, okay, let's stop here. Inshallah. It's okay. Not as much as I thought we would cover, but it's good. Anyway, so we probably need 3 sessions. Any questions? Okay, let me. Yeah, for the moment, for the questions, if you have questions during the week, I don't know if we have. Yes, there is. Sorry. Of course, there is. There is this email. Al-Majd Institute, almaj.institute2021@gmail.com. Oh no, I sent it as a direct message to, sorry. So this one, right, is in the chat. So please send your questions. People following the recording. So it's Al-Majd. Yes, it's recorded, and on YouTube. I mean, I'm not against it. So I would just discuss with Mahmoud Salim about that. But just like for people that will watch the recording, the email, for the moment, let's stick to the email, and inshallah, maybe in the future, we create some Telegram or WhatsApp channel. So Al-Majd, ALMAJD.institute, INSTITUTE 2021@gmail.com. So any questions or any remarks, if you're not satisfied with the pace of the lesson, if I'm not explaining it, the masail clearly enough, I mean, don't be shy. It's there's the question of like adab and so on and so forth. But part of the adab, know that, is that we want to, I mean, the goal is that information passes from me to you. So if you don't say when something does not go your way or could be done better, then you're not helping in like this adab being respected, right? And I can't know myself if everything is clear, because things are clear in my mind, alhamdulillah, but I don't know how it is received, especially that I don't know you, yeah, and I don't see you, so I can't see like your facial expression, for example. That's a good way to know if someone has understood. You just look at the person and you can guess to some extent. So please, please do not refrain from that. And I am not, I'm more than happy to take constructive feedback, as they call it, or negative feedback. You can call that. So, barakallahu fikum for attending. And we meet next week, inshallah, same timing. May Allah protect you this whole week. Please don't forget me in your dua, and have a nice evening or afternoon, depending where you are in the world. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And to you all, may Allah grant us all paradise. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.